This might be my favorite idea of all time from Sigmund Freud, and that's saying a lot. He wrote this little book called Totem and Taboo, and he explains totemistic cultures, these cultures in which a human has a special kinship with an animal or plant. I'm totally into totemism. I mean, right here in Arizona, the Zunies, fetishes, all this other stuff. And plus, like, I have the Haida right here tattooed on my arm. You could go on and on and on. This is the Haida. He's right up here at the top. But anyway, the system of belief has, existed in all these cultures around the world. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, The Golden Compass, but in The Golden Compass, they each have a spirit animal, and if their spirit animal dies, it's called a demon, then they die. And so I like that part of the movie. Okay, so back to the lecture at hand. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Oedipus Rex, but this is where it gets crazy because Sigmund Freud is going to talk about the birth of religion from the Oedipal complex. So I have to briefly explain the story of Oedipus Rex to properly do this. Oedipus, according to Greek legend, was born to Jocasta and Laius. Well, before he was born, Jocasta and Laius went to the oracle and they asked, "What's the destiny of our unborn son?" And the oracle says, "It's going to grow up and it's going to kill you, Laius." And so it's like, that's not a good destiny. And so what does he do? When the son is born, he gives Oedipus, baby Oedipus, to one of his servants and say, "Hey, take this baby out and kill it, because get rid of it." Well, the servant doesn't do that. He gives them to somebody that gives them to somebody that eventually gives them to a neighboring king. I hope I'm doing good right here. So this king raises Oedipus as his own. So Oedipus at a certain age, which is right here, goes to the oracle and says, "What is my destiny?" And the oracle says, "Your destiny is to grow up and kill your father, to kill your father." And he's like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." So when he goes home, he runs away from home so he won't kill his father. But see, that's his stepfather. I hope you're following me right now. Wish we were in class. Okay, so on the road, he gets into an altercation and he kills this man who just happens to be Laius, his father. Well, one of the things about Greek tragedy is you can't outrun your destiny, right? That's kind of like Final Destination. Okay. Well, so now when he goes into, I think it's Thebes, but I can't remember, they're without a king. And they say whoever solves the riddle of the Sphinx will become the next king. Well, guess who solves the riddle of the Sphinx? This guy, Oedipus. And unbeknownst to him, takes his rightful place as the heir to the throne. I hope you're following me. Now, as the king, he marries the queen that's there, which is Jocasta, and he doesn't know it's his mama, and they start having babies. I could talk about this all day long. Eventually, he finds out what he's done. He puts his eyes out, and this, that, there becomes a big fat tragedy, right? Well, for some reason, Freud has always gravitated towards this story, and this is where we get the Oedipal complex. And what he argues at a certain age, around 3 to 5 years old, boys begin to have this sexual desire towards their mother and wish to get rid of their father, just like Oedipus did. Now, if you were in my other class, I would go into all this detail about how this is about attention and not sexual attention, that I don't want to share mommy, or you're going to have to share mommy, and it has nothing to do with sex. But anyway, you can see with this quote right here, he says, "Our first sexual impulse is towards our mother." That's eros. And our first murderous wish against our father, that's thanatos. That's where he gets those two things from the material I presented earlier. Okay, so back to totem and taboo. Within tribal cultures, there's usually an alpha father. We call him the chief. And all the males are below him, subordinate. Okay, and so this is just like polygynous cultures, or I shouldn't say cultures, but animal societies where, there's the alpha male and then all the other males are subdued underneath him. Okay, so here's what Freud's take is on the original sin, if I'm making sense. He says the original sin is not eating the apple in the garden. It's in one of these tribal cultures where you were supposed to revere the father, that one of the sons got jealous and rose up and he killed the alpha father and took his place, just like Oedipus. There was the blood sacrifice. But what about sleeping with a mama? Well, usually in this polygynous cultures, you have an alpha male and he has a harem of females and none of the other males can get to him. Why? Because you're not Big Daddy. And so now, unbeknownst to him, he's become and fulfilled that part of the Oedipal complex too. Okay, so I hope y'all are with me so far, but this is what Freud's idea is about the original sin. It's a blood sacrifice, but a different one than you're thinking about. Okay, so at first the tribe's all, oh, hell yeah, we got rid of that big ogre. He was like always in control of us. He had all the women, this, that, and the other. And then a few hours or days later, they just had this oh shit moment. It's like, why do we kill Big Daddy? We loved Big Daddy. Just like that love-hate relationship in the sky. We love Big Daddy, but we hate him. And so the tribe becomes torn. And this is what he says is the dawn of the superego. That before then you had tribal law, but you didn't have moral law. But this experience of guilt that they had on this first murder right here, the murder of the Alpha Father, led to the production of the superego. Now, I don't know if you buy into that, but this is right here. You can see the different religions have never overlooked the part played by the sense of guilt in civilization. And so that sense of guilt is kind of what we associate with the superego. And he says this sense of guilt began with the murder of the chief. So what does the totem have to do with all this? Well, this is what Freud argues. Once they've killed the Alpha Father, that they go out and they create a totem which represents the surrogate father. So it's a symbol of the father that they have killed. And so the Haida up here, which is like the raven, would be the symbol of the father. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the raven because I'm into ravens and that's what I think my fetish is. Okay, so here we go, a raven. So the raven, interestingly enough, in these like tribal cultures, there's these 3 periods that they observe. And each year they will go out, and normally you can never touch a raven because it's sacred, it represents the father, but one day out of the year they'll go out and get one and they will kill it, murder it, and eat and drink its blood. Okay, are y'all with me? And like have a big party. Okay, that's this day. The next day, they go, oh shit, what do we do? That's the period of mourning. And then finally, they recreate the totem and say, hey, nobody can fuck with the totem for the next 364 days. Okay, so here you destroy and eat the totem, if I can get this off here. And then here you recreate and revere the totem. Are you with me so far? I wish you were there, okay? And so these 3 periods are very interesting because they come out of that guilt of killing the Alpha Father. And so what they really do is they reenact the killing of the Father each year in memory of how they killed the Father. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm not kidding. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Because there had to be a blood sacrifice. I don't want to start crying, but I am. There had to be a blood sacrifice. And what he says is that this continued, and this blood sacrifice is the beginning of Christianity. And this is a really wild idea to go from the edible complex to the birth of Christianity through tribes, but this is what he says. He goes, why does Christianity do the same 3 things? Jesus was God in human form, right? And what did we do to Jesus? We killed him. We killed him, but we shouldn't kill God. We should revere God, right? And so we kill the Father with the blood sacrifice. It had to involve blood, according to Freud. And then we go through these 3 periods. Oh my God, I'm going to start crying. It's like we have this period of celebration right beforehand. We call Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, where we go, the king is dead. We did it. Yay. Carnival. It's all about carne, meat, flesh. We get fleshly. Act like pagans. And then the next day we have an oh shit moment. What did we do? And then we go into mourning, and it's for, whatever, that 40-day period. And then we come out of that 40-day period. What do? Say, nobody touches the Father. Easter Sunday, he is risen. That's so weird. Tell me that's not weird. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And so when you look at the Passion Play and the life of Jesus, he's saying it's just the reenactment of what's been going on all along. And so the Eucharist or the communion is interesting because what did he say at the Last Supper? Just like with the raven, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Eat my body and also drink my blood. Oh my God, is that crazy? And so every day when I go to mass and I look, the priest, he blesses whatever the host, and he, talks about the cup. It's like, what's interesting is, the wafer, the host, the Eucharist. You know what the Native Americans, they call it the same thing in a way. Do you want the host? It's the flesh of the gods. Eat the flesh of God. Eat the flesh of God. We'll get into this when we get into mystical experiences, but I believe, yes, this is the sacrament. This is the sacrament that gets you close to God, but that's my kooky, crazy idea. Okay, so enough about that. When we talk about the totem, you say, oh, well, totems are like these totem poles and they're worshiping a raven. What does that have to do with Jesus and Christianity? Well, what do? We worship these totems, especially I'm a Catholic, so there's all kinds of totemistic things. Here's the host. We revere the host. We call it adoration. It's like I have, whatever my rosary in the other room. So there's all these symbols of the Father that we killed, and we reenact the killing of the Father each year in the Passion Play. I hope you liked that part of the lecture. I'll see you next time.